white man that I've worked for. If he's alive today, he's a liberal with a capital L. His name was Gag Steiner. I asked him about some books on the African people in ancient history. And in the language of the South, he let me down slow. I mean, he spoke kindly. He said, you know, John, I'm sorry that you came from a race that's made no history. But if you persevere, if you obey laws and study hard, you make history someday.
When I was growing up, I was taught in American history books that Africa had no history, and neither did I. That I was a savage, about whom the less said the better, who had been saved by Europe and brought to America. And of course, I believed it. I didn't have much choice. Those are the only books there were. Everyone else seemed to agree.
History is a set of lies agreed upon. So bigoted racist historians spread this nonsense about black people having no history and being inferior and uncivilized when they're being ignorant towards us and they're being uncivilized towards us, but somehow they want to flip it on us and say that we have no history and we are inferior and uncivilized. You see that? It's ridiculous. So they say whatever they want to say about the history because they're holding the cards right now. But their world order is coming to an end. Now, the Tower of Babel was in Egypt. It was in ancient Egypt. It's the Pyramid of Giza. That's the Tower of Babel. But they're going to say that it's in Iraq. And these people are misrepresenting a lot in history, and especially in the Bible. Now, the whole world had one language and a common speech. Now, it's like America. America has English for its language, but there's multiple people who have different languages. They have different language, but the main language is English. It's the same thing in ancient Egypt. There was many tribes in ancient Egypt. Many tribes that had their own language, but they had a main language, which was Egyptian or whatever it was, right? As people moved eastward, they found a plain in Shinar and settled there. So Shinar is actually where the pyramids are and their temples. So they're misplacing the location and saying it's in Mesopotamia, it's in Iraq. It's not there because names change over time. You think the names stay the same for thousands upon thousands of years? Names stay the same? No, you could change them easily. Because if I go into an area and I conquer that area, I'm not going to keep the same name. I'm going to change the name to the name I want. And this is thousands upon thousands of years of history, supposedly. That's what they say. Thousands upon thousands of years of history. So names are going to change constantly. So I'm not surprised that it's called Shinar back then, or they just mislabeled it. Now, they said to each other, "Come, let us make bricks and bake them thoroughly." They used brick instead of stone and tar for mortar. Then they said, "Come, let us build ourselves a city with a tower that reaches to the heavens, so that we may make a name for ourselves. Otherwise, we will be scattered over the face of the whole earth." And that's exactly what the ancient Egyptians did. That's exactly what they did. We see it so many times in documentaries. And who do we talk about most? Do we talk about mostly the Mesopotamians, or do we talk about the Egyptians? We mainly talk about the Egyptians. There's even a whole study around it, Egyptology. So the ancient Egyptians were very important, but somehow the Tower of Babel is in Iraq, where there's no evidence of it, when there's evidence of it in ancient Egypt. Come, let us build ourselves a city with a tower that reaches to the heavens, so that we may make a name for ourselves. Otherwise, we'll be scattered over the face of the whole earth. That's exactly what happened to the ancient Egyptians. Okay, and then when they scattered over the face of the earth, because I remember I said that they have different languages. There's the main language, but they have different languages because there are various tribes in ancient Egypt, and they had their own language. And then they were scattered over the face of the earth, and then they brought the information from ancient Egypt to various places. right? So they brought their own language, they brought their culture, they brought the information, and just because they brought the information in Mesopotamia doesn't mean that that history happened there. So they tell the story of Babel, but doesn't mean that it happened there, right? But they could just adopt that history, and some people could make it seem that, oh, it was there, but it wasn't there, it was somewhere else. Do you understand? So that's what happened. But the Lord came down to see the city and the tower the people were building. Like he comes down. Like, why does he have to come down? You see, this is man has wrote the Bible, not God. The Lord said, if as one people speaking the same language they have begun to do this, then nothing they plan to do will be impossible for them. Come, let us go down and confuse their language so they will not understand each other. So it's really another nation that is conspiring with other nations in order to destroy ancient Egypt, to undermine ancient Egypt. Oh, ancient Egypt is so amazing, we got to destroy it. You know, I want what they have. You know, I want to covet what they have. So over time, this is over centuries, of course. Over centuries, it's upon centuries, eventually, you know, they're worn down and then they're scattered to different parts of the world and they create civilizations elsewhere, right? But they made their mark on the world. We see it all the time. So the Lord scattered them from there over all the earth, and they stopped building the city. That is why it's called Babel, because there the Lord confused the language of the whole world. From there, the Lord scattered them over the face of the earth, of the whole earth. So the Tower of Babel is the Pyramid of Giza. It's so obvious. But as I said, they conspired and they made it seem that it's in Iraq when it's not in Iraq, in order to confuse the real history. So that means the Babylonians are actually the ancient Egyptians. So the Tower of Babel is actually in Egypt.